FFA?
It's not till, I think,
Okay, it's 6:30. We will call the meeting to order. We will start with prayer and the pledge. Everybody bow your heads with me, please. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for bringing us together tonight, Lord. We thank you for the opportunity to serve this district, the school, and this community. Lord, these children, Lord, that we just guide them to be hands to your feet, Lord, that you guide all of us through this community just to lift them up, and not just through school, but beyond that, into adulthood, Lord. We just praise you for the many blessings. Ask your forgiveness of our sins. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We will start off with the principal report.
Got just a little bit going since the last time we've met. Current student enrollment, we're still at 181. 52 high school, 32 junior high, 97 elementary. Still have the same 25 transfers. We hosted the 15A UL academic meet here. We were the champions with 791 points. A lot of those students will be in San Angelo this weekend, the latter part of the week. Some folks talk about that here in a little bit, but we'll spend the majority of our week in San Angelo this week. But girls and boys teams won district in golf, both of them. Obviously, over the weekend we had regional track. They did change the schedule and it worked out really, really good. It was really nasty when we left there on Saturday. Multiple relays and individuals advanced to the state meet, which will be the following week, May 2nd and 3rd. One act play will be in San Angelo. They'll go down Wednesday, compete Thursday at noon. Some of them will stay on Thursday instead of coming back. And so we'll be shuttling kids back and forth between here and San Angelo, because we have academic UL in San Angelo Friday and Saturday of this weekend. FFA will be leaving tomorrow at 8 o'clock. They're going off. They have practice meets for the next 2 days, and then they have the state meet at Stephenville on Thursday. We'll be doing a send-off for them at 8 o'clock tomorrow. Our going band from Jaybird Land did go to competition, to the side reading and competition. They did get all ones and bring home the sweepstakes trophy. Miss Huff excellent job. Our kids performed very well. I'm very, very proud of them. Baseball, we get to try something new in baseball. We have playoffs, did make the playoffs. We will play on
Monday and Wednesday.
On Monday and Wednesday of next week. Play 2 on Monday, 1 on Wednesday if necessary. Still don't have time set for those, but we will be playing in Yulee. Regional golf was also this past week in Abilene. Girls played Monday, Tuesday. Boys played latter part of the week. Boys team did advance to state. Some of them will be staying past state track in Austin. Josh, if you see Josh, he lived in Abilene last week. He went down Saturday. We got a meeting Saturday. I think he went down Saturday and he came home Saturday. So he was in Abilene for the entire week with golf and regional track. So the boys team advanced to state. Amongst all of the activities, we've had STAR testing going on. We did STAR testing in English language arts, history, social studies, and science. This week looks a little bit different than our traditional testing schedule. We'll be testing elementary 3 through 5 on Wednesday. High school, we have so many kids in one act play, we will bump high school and junior high and high school back to the following week because of conflicts. So we'll do all the secondary the following Wednesday. And we do have a couple of makeup tests for kids that were in golf last week, but we'll have STAR testing. Should be completely finished with STAR testing, not the end of this week, but the following week. Things going on today. We had high school district tennis here. We won, I believe, every one of them in first or second. I didn't see one that we didn't win. With Remy going back and playing a playback game tomorrow against a young lady from Rotan for the singles. Jace was the singles champion. And so that will be tomorrow. We do have spring pictures tomorrow for those of you who have kids, so, there's lots of pictures. Fun to find the day to take pictures. So we got that going on. We did have a game scheduled with Monday for baseball. It did get canceled this afternoon, so we don't have that. Again, like I told you, we have star mathematics 3rd through 5th. FFA state qualifiers meet, and then we also have pre-KK registration roundup on Wednesday from 4 to 5:30 on that end of the building. And then regional 1A play, as I talked about, and then FFA will compete at state FFA on Thursday. We have junior high tennis at Jayden on Thursday, Friday regional UIL, early releases for the rest of the year at 12:30. Saturday, no junior high tennis at level 1, that went off the schedule in regional UIL, it's national. So that is what's going on. This has never been 2 pages, but it's 2 pages. So, lots going on. Awesome that kids are advancing and doing well, and that we're getting to do things in the late April and May. I think Mr. Coulter will talk about that later on, but that's all I have. You guys have any questions for me?
Thank you.
All right, thank y'all.
Man, oh, man.
Next one.
Where is the state FFA?
At Stephenville, yes, sir. They do practice rounds at Hamilton on Tuesday and Wednesday, so they're not really competing for Thursday, but they do practice rounds and then they'll compete on Thursday.
Okay, here we go. So, you'll notice that the framework for the agenda changed a little bit. And I mentioned to you all a little over a month ago that I believe that these places exist for the sole purpose of learning. And in business lingo, they often talk about your core functions, that your core function. And so I believe that this place and our work together is not a business entity that does learning as a side hustle. It's a learning entity that takes care of business. And so that's the reason that it's been reframed into safe, orderly, and nurturing learning environments, into learning optimization, and into effective and efficient learning operation. So with that said, Cody Scott, I know there's 2 of you. I've talked to you all before about how important I think it is for us to stay focused on what we need to provide to our students in the way of learning and experiences. I happen to believe that we're all shaped by the people that touch our lives, the experiences that we have, and the forces that shape us. And so as a learning institution, we need to be thinking about that in the context of what we want our children to know and to be able to do, which sounds a whole lot like the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. But I would go beyond that to say, I believe it's important that we teach our children positive and powerful ways of behaving and ways of thinking. And so there are a lot of institutions around the world. McKinsey Consulting Company may be one that Steph's familiar with. They've done international research and they consult with businesses around the world. And they came up with what they believe were the core skills necessary for the workforce of the future. And I won't beat this to death too much. We ran an hour and a half last time, and I'll take responsibility for 45 minutes of that. I'll try to cut it off a little quicker this time. But according to the McKinsey research, that the people that are going to move into the future and be prosperous, successful, and happy are the ones that are going to be proficient in these areas. They're going to have remarkable cognitive abilities along these things. And this document is in your board packet, so you can take a look at it more closely if you want to. They're going to have exceptional interpersonal skills. They're going to have the ability, in the words of the researcher Daniel Goldman, emotional and social intelligence. They're going to have to be self-aware. They're going to have to be able to manage relationships well. And then, interestingly, according to the McKinsey group, they're going to have to be very proficient in manipulating and managing the digital world. you all see that in your children all the time, I'm sure. But in my view, these are the kinds of things that we should be thinking about. And I asked Jamie in conversation that he had with me in the office the other day, I said, how long has it been since you did long division? Long, long time. And I doubt that anyone in this room has done long division in a long, long time. Not that it's not important to know how, but these things are the things that I believe that we should be focused on to help our children and our grandchildren be happy, prosperous, and successful as they move into life and start dosing our medications out to us and those kinds of things here in the not too distant future. That was only a part of the sermon, and I'll get back to the agenda here. It's the time of year, some of you may have seen that meme online of the little boy, like 5 years old, saying, I'm tired and cranky. I had a hard day at school. And April and May makes us all tired and cranky and a hard day at school. And we get to bumping against each other, and it requires a lot of flexibility and a lot of forgiveness and a lot of grace. And so that's, it's nice to work in this environment when, as Jamie was talking about, all the things that are going on, people are constantly flexing. For instance, I'll mention Shane. My heart went out to him. I mean, he had a group of kids qualify for state, but they're also all of them on the 1-act play group. And so that particular team of his won't be able to compete at state. But people are, so far have been shown a lot of forgiveness and flexibility. Jamie spoke about the testing thing, and you talk about cat herding. The state has allowed us a lot more flexibility in recent years than they used to. Used to just testing day was testing day. You didn't do anything else. Now they allow you to flex your calendar a little bit around. And so that's created for Darla Harrison some real challenges, but she does it well, and making sure that we follow the letter of the law and keep the testing on track as it should be. Man, oh man, the Jaybird Band. About a month ago, I was walking down the hall after school one day, and I saw Lauren coming up the hall with Keith Bearden. Some of you know Keith Bearden, some of you do not. Keith Bearden started his band director career here. He finished his band director career as the director of bands at Texas Tech University. And the 8 years I was principal here, every 2 years I would call Keith and say, I've lost another band director because they were successful and moved on. Who can you give me? And so Keith and I were constantly in conversation about him helping us find band directors to keep our band program rolling. But I saw Lauren and Keith both in the hallway about a month ago and had a very nice visit with them. But I'm so proud for them. That picket fence thing you see there is a phrase that Mr. John Ritchie used to use all the time when he was the principal. Those straight ones, he called them picket fences. Great thing. I had to send the band back. Jamie mentioned the academic teams, and we've got the plaques, as you see, the ball over there, that big Texas plaque. We started honoring those students that had done that many years ago, and I'm very proud of not only our ability to line up with you and kick your butt in athletics, but we're also going to outsmart you too. That's a good thing. Kudos to Melissa Humphrey. She conducted the district academic meet, which I can tell you from experience is a little bit nerve-wracking. And this was her first time to direct that, and she did a marvelous job. It came off well. I want to thank Lacey. I mentioned Lacey last time we met. Boy, she keeps us out of the fire a lot by taking care of audits and reports and audits and reports and audits and reports. And I walk into her, I get emails from people I've never even heard of and saying this report is due. And I immediately walk down into her office and said, you know anything about this? And she said, yeah, I did that last week. So thank you, Lacey, for that. We had a very nice medal and trophy ceremony for the Lady Jays that qualified for the state basketball tournament. And thanks to the hard work for Missy and Margot and Amber in putting that thing together. It was a really nice event. Now, I mentioned the little boy that said he had a hard day at school and he was cranky and stuff. And his dad said, that mean we're not gonna wrestle? And the little boy said, well, maybe. As Jamie was talking about earlier, we just keep winning. And every time we win, that obligates another day or two on the calendar down the way. So we've got some real calendar challenges that we're trying to deal with. For one, trying to figure out how we can get athletic banquet, prom, music show, academic trip. What else? What am I forgetting? Things that we would normally do fairly easily, except now we're sent, everything we got almost is going to not just regional, but state. So it's really compacting the calendar, and we're trying our best to accommodate, and we're calendar wrestling is what we're doing. And we're going to do the best we can to pull all these things off in some meaningful way. But please be patient. My wife told me the other day that one of my daughters told her, well, the academic trip got canceled. And I said, nobody told me about that. And so I started asking Jamie, and he said, no, we're having a hard time finding a place. It's not on the calendar right now because we haven't been able to find the right place for it, but we're working on that. Storm mitigation. I want to commend a couple of you already. I'll just call you by name, Cody and Cody. Thank you already. You all will never, ever hear me tell stakeholders in this community not to communicate with the school board, and you will never hear me tell teachers and staff not to communicate with that your job. I mean, yours is a political position, which means you have to engage with the stakeholders. What I want, and I think our relationship will work best as long as you have me, is when someone brings a concern or a grievance to you, send them my way, and let me see if I can resolve it in an informal way and it not burn up these public meeting times. And so thank you to Cody and Cody for giving me the heads up on one today, and I reached out to that person. And that's the way I think the business will work best, is if folks have concerns, if you'll direct them to me, and we'll see if we can get it resolved in an informal way. In my experience, conflict almost always raises blood pressure and temperature. And almost always when our blood pressure and temperature goes up, we don't think as clearly. So if we can deal with these things in a cooler, less contentious environment, almost always we can come up with solutions that are acceptable. That's my report, Cody. Unless y'all got questions for me.
Other comments? Nobody's on there. Okay, we will move to learning optimization for all. Discussion on dual credit participation. You want to speak to that?
This comes from a direct question to Cody, from Cody Scott to me the other day. I knew we had some taking dual credit courses, which is, for those of you that don't know, dual credit is where students take a college level class from, usually in our case, I think it's South Plains and maybe some from Western Texas.
We used to, I think we only use South Plains now.
South Plains now? But it's not uncommon to have them from Texas Tech, and I even got email today from McMurray wanting some of that business. But the students take a college level class, but they get credit for high school and college at the same time. One of the most common ones is U.S. government. It's required of almost all college degrees, and it's required for kids to graduate high school, and so they take that class from the college, and it goes on the books here, it goes on the books there, and it saves mom and dad money when the child goes off to school. I work with a group of schools around the state. Right now we're up about 35, I think, rural schools that their school boards have just made the commitment. We want every one of our children to have an associate degree or industry credentials by the time they graduate high school, which means, to translate it to mom and dad terms, it means two years of college paid for before they ever leave here, which is a good thing. But so what this means is over half of our high school students are enrolled in college classes right now. which I happen to think is a good thing. Because it gives them, my other life is in higher ed. And I can tell you, one of the biggest challenges we have in higher ed is keeping kids in past their freshman year. We have a whole lot of them that enroll in the fall of their freshman year, and a bunch of them are not there the following May. And so what the dual credit process was created for was to help those students get their toe in the water and get a feel for what college level work is like and get some credit on their transcript to make it easier for them to matriculate and finish their degree once they leave our walls. One of the nice things about the state of Texas is this. It's called a College Career Military Readiness. And there's a system called the PTEC system. And if y'all don't fire me in a hurry, we'll talk about that more. But what it allows us to do, if we get involved in that, it allows us to not only expose our students to a lot of these college level courses, but it also allows us to keep them on our attendance record for 2 years after they leave. So that's a good thing financially. That's all on that, Cody, unless someone has questions for me about that process or stuff.
I want to make sure I understood that last part correctly. We get to keep them on the books for 2 years afterwards?
Yes, if you're in
So
the
it's
PTEC system.
we got, you said 180, so I mean, we'd be looking at, I don't know how many in our senior class, another 15 or so kids
They
would add to that.
right. And the colleges, the state university, state universities are funded similarly to the way we are. It's by the funding, by the enrollment.
Right.
And so what the legislature did, and I'm going to tell you more than you want to know, and I apologize. Several years ago, the Higher Education Board and it used to be called TBEC, Texas Business and Education Coalition, put their heads together and they were thinking about how can we create the most highly skilled, highly educated workforce that we can? What do we need to do to make this happen? And what they call it is the Texas 60 by 30. The goal being by 2030, 60% of the young working force, which would be basically the 22 to 38, 30, 40-year-old working class, would have either degrees and or industry credentials of some kind, EMT, nursing, welder, some kind of certification, because that's where the money flows. I mean, that's the currency in the marketplace. And so they've started putting in place and convincing the legislature to put a little money behind that. Instead of just wishing it would happen, they would say, what if we let schools carry those kids on the books a couple of years longer if they're getting that kind of highly skilled education? So, and we can talk more about that later if you want to. But they've tried to put some incentives in place to make it happen.
Next, we'll discuss the TEA 2023 F accountability rating.
Yeah. So I get a little energetic about the last thing I talked about, and I get a little unenergetic about this. Even when I was the principal here from 94 to 2002, I did not like the state accountability system because as I was telling Jamie and I are both old coaches, and I was telling him the other day, that accountability system to me seems like the opening height of the high jump. Okay. You got to clear the opening height, but that's really not the thing that trips my trigger. You know, I want to be jumping it up there when the medals are at stake. And so the accountability system has been a mess since COVID. And for the last 2 years running, you haven't got A through F ratings because of litigation. Finally, we're getting the A through F ratings for the year 2023. I don't know what good that's going to do us, and I'm not sure I care that much. But those came out this week and schools can take a look at them. Jamie and I and Darla have not had a chance to sit down together and look at those because they just came out yesterday or day before. We will. So I don't know what the rating is gonna be. I know the domains that it's based on now. It's not just test scores anymore. It used to be just the test scores. Now it's how much gap you close for students in the year of their academic learning. And it's also based on how well you do with the population of students that are not traditionally very successful in an academic setting. So there's several things. I do school board training all the time, and I kind of go through this pretty quickly with them because everybody just kind of glazes over when I start talking about it. But we'll look at it, and it'll be part of our report in the next board meeting. We'll look at it a little more carefully.
Next, discussion item, TREA, summer board retreat.
Yeah, some of you have responded to Kelsey that you're going to go to Round Rock to Kalahari. I think that's early June, isn't it?
June, I was around
2, 3, 4.
26.
Just saying, 11 through 14.
And then the SLI is the ones, that's the ones,
That's forward,
yeah,
sorry.
the SLI are the ones that's put on by TASB, the Association of School Boards. And I've had conversations with some of you about that. I've been to both and both are great. Anytime, well, it's about learning. And as I've told you all, this place exists for learning. And if we are not seen as learners, then nobody else in the building. And I think learning is important. The difference in the TREA and the SLI events, you go to TREA and you're going to be sitting next to someone from a rural school. You go to the SLI events, you may be sitting next to somebody, a school board member from Dallas or Houston or El Paso, which is not that it's good or bad. It's just a lot of times you're dealing with different kinds of problems. And so the thing about TREA is they've decided to do it at Kalahari, so that makes it for a pretty nice family environment. Kids can play the water park. But both events are good events. Some of you have already responded to Kelsey, but if you, I encourage you to go somewhere, advance your learning. But it's time to get those things on the books and get rooms reserved and plans made.
So if we can't make it to one, we can do another one.
Yep, absolutely. Now, what you can't do, and I'm glad you brought that up, Andy. One of the things that you all are supposed to do every year is have a team of 8 training, which means all 7 of you and whoever your superintendent is at the time has to go through 3 hours of training. And I do that with school boards all over the state pretty regularly. And I'm happy to do it with you all while I'm serving you here. We can do it. I'm a state authorized provider, so we can do that. And just like that stuff I was showing you about the McKinsey thing earlier, we don't have to sit down and do it 3 hours at one pop. We can do it 15, 30 minutes here and there and along the way, and then I can give us credit for it later on if we want to do that. Right? So to me, I think that's the best way that learning occurs is when you learn a little something and you percolate on it a while, and you learn something and you percolate on it a while, rather than you sit there and listen to an old retired guy talk to you for 3 hours. But anyway, I encourage you to go to one of those or the other, but you can't get the team of 8 training unless all 8 of us are in the room at the same time for that period. I'm done with that one, Cody, unless you got questions.
Very good. Efficient learning operations, action item, consent items, minutes from March 26th, financial reports and the permanent school fund request. Everybody go through those. Anybody see anything that stood out? Need a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
And you makes a motion. I'll second. Jeff seconds it. All in favor?
Thank you very much.
Establish good, Jim. Yeah. Establish a date and time for canvassing, board election for May 7th, 2025 at 6:30. What do we have, 11 days after that day?
At 11 days, the state says you have to have that canvassing meeting within 11 days after the day of the election, which is May the 3rd. And Cody and I keep saying Cody Scott and I had a conversation about optimal dates for that. It looked to us like May 7th might be the best date. And generally that meeting is normally a pretty short meeting. You come together and you certify that the election is fair and equitable, and then whoever won the election gets sworn in and does their certificate thing, and you go home. That's the normal process. And usually don't burn up a whole lot of time at that event. If May 7 works for you all.
Works for me.
Work for me.
Matt?
Okay.
That's a Monday, wasn't it?
Wednesday.
The Wednesday.
What time? That's good.
So that's an action now. Someone will need to move, that we have the canvassing board election on May the
Need a
7th.
Motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Okay, thanks,
Thank you very much.
6:30.
6:30. So on the, I'm jumping ahead of you, sorry, Cody.
You're fine.
Transportation, Jiminy, Christmas, it's been a booger. So I'll try to go quickly on this. As I told you all last time we met, we're in a pickle on transportation. Again, we have both of our activity buses in the shop, so neither one of the flight buses are available to us right now. Talked to Jamie, talked to coaches, talked to Lacey, and I convinced myself that what I needed to do was lease a couple of 12-passenger vans. We can't legally haul 15. So, in a van. I kept looking at state law, and I bet I've looked at it 5 times in the last 2 weeks. And it looks like Texas law says you can haul kids in a van as long as you're not putting them on a bus route in a van. You can haul them to activities. But then federal law just comes right out and prohibits it. So, I don't know. I went to the trouble to just lease a 12, or reserve a 12-passenger van, thinking maybe I can just get us through the end of April and May without us having to put kids in cars and going somewhere. And then I started looking at these bus quotes, this 14-passenger bus quotes. And I told you all last time, I think for the first Band-Aid to our transportation problem is just go ahead and buy something. So what you saw there in those documents is 4 quotes. And I've talked to all 4 of the guys that provide those quotes to me today. And the one I'm going to recommend to you is the one from Masters Transportation, which is in Irving. And but it's $1,000 higher than the cheapest one. But he told me on the phone today, I'll have that bus in your hand Friday if you buy it. This Friday. The closest any of the other ones could do was this summer or August. And so I'm recommending to you that we go with the quote on Masters Transportation for $107,900. And he says we'll have our bus to us this week, which means, as we were talking earlier, we'll have a brand new set of wheels to help get our kids somewhere.
Yeah.
Cody and I, when we were talking about this earlier, last Friday, he asked me, it's when I had reserved that van, he said, have you talked to Blake at the church? And I said, no. And he said, they have a van. I didn't know they had a van. So he went and talked to Blake, and Blake said we could use their van if we got in a pickle. So that would be $4,800 less than what I was aiming for by leasing one for most of the month. So if we just get in a jam, we can do that too. Ask me questions if you got them.
Anybody got any concerns about purchasing
They can get it here that quick. That sounds great.
I think we need it. We're desperate.
we'll need a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
And that's from which contract? I mean,
That's
Masters
Masters Transportation. And that probably needs to be part of the motion. You're getting that, Jeff?
That was.
Stephanie made a motion,
I'll second it.
Andy seconds it, all in favor?
All right, thank you all. Thanks for your trust.
So if it's not here by Friday, he's gonna take some money on.
I don't know if bus salesman or car salesman. I'm not looking at you, right?
It'll be here. Have faith.
Okay, we'll move send the May 28th, 2024 resolution of the Board of Trustees of James Gerard ISD, district regarding selection of a construction CMAR and declared closed RFP 2024-01.
So, I do not enjoy talking to attorneys. I love our attorneys. They're nice guys, but I don't enjoy talking to attorneys. I spent about 45 minutes on the phone with them week before last, talking through the softball, baseball complex thing. And their recommendation, as I told you all last time we met, I think it is a good idea for us to back up, start over, which means start over from the beginning and advertise for a construction manager at risk so that we have more than one option to look at. And they agreed. In fact, Ron Garcia, one of our attorneys, told me that that's exactly what he had advised Scott, that not to sign some of that paperwork with the construction manager that we had authorized him to sign with. So the attorney said the first step in this redo is to rescind, or in layman's terms, undo what you voted on May 28th, 24. And basically said, we're gonna call that null and void, and now we're gonna start over. So that's what that motion is about.
So we will need a motion to rescind that unless anybody has anything.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to resolve to designate construction manager at risk as construction delivery method for the softball baseball complex project.
Need a second? Andy seconds, all in favor?
We want to catch it. I hate that. Not this.
Item D. Is that what you're asking, Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah, item D. And Jeff, if you want, you may, I noticed in board book, they have a place in there where I can actually write the language for the motion. Is that been happening?
Well, it depends. If it's specific language, usually.
Okay, well, I'll remember to do that, because then you can just copy paste, or I don't know, you might be able to just click on it.
Just click on it.
Okay. Yeah, what I don't want to do is be presumptuous and just assume you all are gonna vote for what I'm recommending.
And that was who Cody made it.
Cody and Andy.
And yeah.
Now we'll move on to 3, resolve to designate construction manager CMAR as construction delivery method for the softball baseball complex project.
Okay, this is the tricky one. So now that we backed up and erased what happened a year ago, so now we're back at, we're at that point where we're gonna declare before God and everybody, we're gonna start this process of looking for a construction manager at risk. And we're gonna use it as a delivery method. as I mentioned to you last time, school boards have three options. And in order of expensiveness, the most expensive is if you just hire a general contractor to do the job and get out of the way. The second most expensive is you hire a construction manager at risk, where you're basically hiring someone to manage the construction, but you're sitting in the shotgun seat right with them as it's going on. And then the cheapest version generally is construction manager not at risk, which means you just hiring someone to help do the work, but you have virtually no incentive for that person to finish on time or under budget at all. And so that it's sort of cheap on the front end, but quite often it ends up not being so cheap. So what we're picking is the middle version. We're saying we're looking for a construction manager at risk, which basically says we're looking for people that have the capacity to do the work and want to do the work. They have the insurance, the bonding, the subcontractors that they've worked with before. They can pull it off. They can pull it off in the amount of time that we say we would like to have it done. And if they don't pull it off, then it starts costing them a little money every day after that, if they don't get it. That's the at-risk part. There's some incentive for them to finish on time and under budget. Now, the second part of that. If you're inclined to do that, then this is what I put in front of you. From a Robert Rules of Order, this would be an amendment to the motion. So if you all are inclined to do what I was just talking about and say, okay, we're going to try this again. We're going to have a construction manager at risk. That's the method we're going to use. Then someone would make that motion. I move to that maroon line text right there. If someone makes that motion and it's seconded, then Cody will say, is there further discussion? And you all can talk about it or ask any questions if you want to. And then at some point, someone say, I want to amend the motion, and you'll use that blue language. I want to amend the motion. What that means is, if this motion passes, we're going to give Nelson permission to get going. Basically, we can't put it in that language. But get the train out of the station. If the top one were to fail, the bottom one null and void anyway. So, but when you get ready to vote, Cody will call for the vote on the amendment first, and then he'll call on the vote for the motion, the original motion. You all were nodding like you understood. I don't feel like I explained it very well, but
I understand what your end game is, the accomplishment.
Yeah.
Toward the end.
I mean, what I'm angling for is to get permission to get started on this thing tomorrow. To start finding the person that's gonna do the work for us. And then in our May meeting, then we can hammer out picking the one that we think is the best one for the job.
So I'll go ahead and move to resolve designate construction manager at risk as construction delivery method for the softball baseball complex project. You all say, Matt seconds it, all in favor?
Oh, no, don't vote yet.
Oh,
Don't vote yet. Now you ask for a discussion.
okay.
Okay, so this is all,
It's a motion with a tag on it, an amendment.
I'm not sure how to do that.
Just type it in there as a.
Just put top them both in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, so if y'all want to ask me questions or have a conversation, you can. Cody, you look like you got a question. Hang
No,
on.
I just kind of jumped the gun on the motion I read a few minutes earlier on that. So I was confused, but I'm less confused now.
Okay,
So you said if, we pull the trigger on this, it'll start tomorrow, because I know you've said you've already.
if you all vote, if somebody moves the amendment, and you all vote the amendment, approve the amendment, and then approve the motion as amended in technical terms,
Because you've
then
already,
what you're doing is you're telling me tomorrow I can start putting stuff in the newspaper and advertising. The train will leave the station. And with the intent of May 16th being, that's a Friday, being the last day. And here, here's what those people are gonna get.
Okay.
And send back to us.
So we have 3 days to go through that,
Y'all see that?
get it back to this.
And
3 days.
if any of you are taking sleeping pills,
May.
I can give you this, because I can save you money, because it is just mind-numbing stuff. But, so all these contractors will ask for the packet, and I'll give them the packet. And all this is we're saying, we're looking for someone that's qualified to do the job. Prove to us that you want to do the job and you have the qualifications to do the job. And then in May 16th is the deadline. If we have May 19th board meeting, we'll talk about that in a minute, but if May 19th is the board meeting, the May board meeting, and in that one, we'll sit down and sort through however many of these we get. And it'll, I would like to think I'd have opportunity to do a little homework before that meeting. I'll try to grease the skids so that you will have some information about who we think is capable.
That's what I was gonna ask. Well, I guess you'll kind of go through them. and kind
Yeah,
of
oh
see.
yeah, of course. But again, you'll get to see it all. I mean, it's like with bus quotes. I mean, I'm not gonna try to pull a fast one on you. It's a collective decision. But what we wanna do is hire someone that has good reputation, has the capability to pull the job off and the interest in pulling the job. I mean, there'll be plenty of people that can do it, but their calendars are too tight or they're stretched too thin, those kind of things. So, but these two motions, the motion and the amendment, as I've put on that paper for you, basically says we're looking for a construction manager and we're gonna give Nelson permission to hit the ground running tomorrow morning, basically. So you're waiting on an amendment?
Got any
Amendment?
questions? No more.
So Stephen, the architect, we're still with MWM.
MWM,
This-
Stephen Drill. Mhm.
It's already pretty much designed and,
Well, yeah, he's got, yes, and that'll be part of the next meeting too. I
Yeah.
mean, the first step is for us to find somebody that's interested in doing the work. And then the next step is sit down with that person and Stephen and say, okay, here's the scope of the work we're talking about right here. And I met with Stephen Drewell and, Corey Doolin, who's a civil engineer, by Zoom on Wednesday or Thursday last week. The civil engineers, the survey people, and they're fixing to survey that property that Turney owns, and that property that we own, and they're gonna craft the language for a square foot by square foot swap. Turney told me, he said, I think I've got the land to give you all a nice clean access into that 40 acres. And I'm willing to just swap you straight across. And so they're gonna survey that stuff and then create the documentation for the land swap. And so I believe that will be ready for us at our May board meeting too. So that'll be part of the process. I don't think Turney will renege on us. I can get him thrown in jail. I got to get there.
Somebody to
make a motion for the amendment.
move to amend.
So I move to amend the motion by adding that we authorize the interim superintendent to immediately launch the request for proposals for construction manager at risk using the one-step process.
And we'll need a second. Any seconds? All in favor?
So the motion passes. The amendment passes. And now you'll vote on the amended motion, Cody.
And now we'll
We go back up.
Yeah, now you're gonna vote on the motion to resolve the resolution as amended.
I'll get it right this time. So I move to resolve, to designate construction manager at risk, as construction delivery method for the softball baseball complex project.
And I second the motion.
all in favor?
So we don't need those.
And Cody, that's the resolution, in that folder. It's the formal resolution that will require. I know it, is it yours and Jeff's or just yours?
I think it. I don't see it, yes.
Maybe it's both.
I don't remember if it required both signatures or just one.
President.
No, it's the secretary.
Oh, yeah, it's both ways. We'll sign. We'll move to, the TEA audit, Title II, Title IV federal funds.
Okay, that's this discussion item. By the way, thank you all, for your vote of confidence. I know that sounds like a lot of voodoo and hand waving, and I take that to mean you trust me. And so, but I don't want you ever to vote if you don't feel like you got your answer, your question answered. So please quiz me. If I don't know the answer, I won't just make stuff up. I'll find the answer. As I mentioned to you earlier in my report, Lacey does a lot of reports and filling out audits and stuff like that. Title II and Title I is federal money that currently flows to us. We got notified this week that a lot of that money that was flowing to school districts from the government back during COVID, they called it ESSER money. And of course, you had to file reports repeatedly on how you were using the money. And a lot of school districts paid for personnel out of it. And now a lot of my superintendent friends are having to fire people that they paid for. But we got an email the other day saying, forget the ESSER reports. So I suspect that has to do with the Trump administration cleaning out the Department of Education. So there's nobody there to look at the numbers, even if we set the numbers in. But that was one report we no longer have to turn in. But the Title II and Title IV, one of them I think has to do with teacher retention, maybe. But it's federal money and we don't get much. I mean, I don't even know, do we get 10,000 total?
We give 21,000 of Title
Title I, okay.
I, Title IV, 4496 or something, and then 10,000 of Title II.
Okay. So that's less than $50,000 total. But anyway, we have to do those reports. And when you go through your annual report audit with your auditor, they also look at those the way we handle federal money also. We get money from the federal government, we get money from the state, and we get money from our taxpayers. And so those three piles, and then we get some grant money too. That's really a fourth pile of money that flows into public school. But our auditors, when they start looking at our books, they're looking at all of them. And when Lacey told me when y'all had your audit in December, I mean, I know you met with the auditor in December, January. We were no findings or no black marks, so we were in good shape. That's all on that, Cody.
Okay. Let's determine May, June, July regular board meeting dates. Anybody, May 19th, June 23rd, and July 24th. Do we want to set them, and if we need to move them,
Sure,
gonna be on
sure.
vacation?
I just thought y'all might like to
Everybody
set
okay
them
with that kind of
so you
heads
can
up?
vacation plan a little bit. Yeah.
Yes.
And then if we need to move it, talk to me or just send a text to Mr. Coulter and we can figure it out.
Those tentatively, those dates are okay for us to put on the calendar? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Letters of reasonable assurance, last month, yeah, it was last month, you all voted to approve the contract employees, the professional employees, which are on professional contracts. We also have a batch of employees, which are not contract employees. What is that? There they are. And that's in your board packet as well. And here those people are, generally those are hourly employees. And they're all in the governmental terms or employment terms, at-will employees. There's one that should be on there that's not. My name should be on there because I'm an at-will employee as an interim. Which means, the way the state law states it is if you're an at-will employee, and I guess most of your employees are at-will employees, they can be fired for good cause or no cause. So, but the reason that we go through this process these days at school is somebody, whatever system you put in place, somebody will figure out a way to game it. And, so what happened over the years was people that were working like paraprofessionals in schools, they would work during the school year and then they would file unemployment in the summertime. And so they would start making money. So when we start issuing letters of reasonable assurance, what we're saying to them is, it looks like we got your job ready for you when we come back in August, which means they cannot. And unemployment comes out of our pocket too. So what they can't do then is file unemployment claims in the summer hours, and that's the whole purpose for that. So all of our at-will employees got those letters, just to say, as far as we know, your job's safe for the coming year. That's what that's about. Okay, Cody, I'm done with that.
Next, the bond election wish list.
This is, mostly this conversation is about being transparent with our stakeholders and a little processing, out loud if you want to process out loud. What I plan to do, these are the things that have come to, when I sent out an email to all of our faculty and staff, and I met with the commissioners and asked them to give me ideas, and anybody that will listen to me long enough, I'll say, you got any ideas? I know, we had 4 bond measures last November, 3 of them failed, 1 passed. And I've had people in the community tell me, they didn't even think we needed to go for another bond, it's too soon. But it's part of the conversation, part of the push and pull, give and take conversation, whether or not we do or don't. But these are the ideas that have been pitched to me, and I have not sorted them and I have not ranked them. These are just the ideas that have been discussed. What I intend to do between now and our next meeting is contact each one of you on an individual basis and get a better feel for what you think is worthy of being on a bond measure if we do it. Because at the next meeting, we'll need to skinny that list down if we're going to skinny it down, or decide, no, we're not going to do it. These are the things. You all ask me questions about any of them, or have a conversation about them if you want to. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I just want to make sure that we're being as transparent as we can be with people.
So when Mr. Bicknell presented the bond as it was urgent because of the solar panel farm, that's the sense of urgency. So where does that play into redoing it now more urgently or waiting? Like
That has been, well, I don't know anything about it.
Well, it added to the value, overall value. Right. The tax property value of the school, and it depreciates every year. But it was only like 23%. It really didn't do anything. It would be better for us to not go that route, because when you go that route, the taxpayer still has to come out a little bit. But the route we were going was just pay it out of permanent school funds on an annual basis or monthly basis, and then the taxpayer never sees the change, never sees a dime on their tax.
In order for us to see that 23%, we would have to tax the public. And
They have to.
and they would a little bit, I think it was like 23%, but we decided not to go that route. So the solar farm became,
It wasn't an issue.
It became a non-issue, is that what I'm hearing? Right. That has not been a part of any conversation I've had. I mean, Lacey has indicated to me the revenue we've realized so far off of that. And don't let me misspeak, Lacey, chime in if you want to. As I understood from her, the revenue that we've gotten off of that to date exceeded what you predicted. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Do you know off the top of your head how much roughly?
3.1 is the check, I believe, around that 3.1 that we got this year.
And what were we anticipating?
We budgeted 2.6, yes.
Okay, so $500,000, we realized $500,000 more dollars off of that than we anticipated.
Yes.
which is a good thing.
Let's pay for a bus.
Exactly, that's exactly what I was thinking. We could pay for another bus and not bust our budget. And that might be something worth considering. Other things,
Just
and that
numbers.
doesn't even have anything to do with the bond measure.
Oh, I was just gonna say, just if we do something like that for a bond, like, of course, transportation, we have to have it. Can't buy that out from the school funds, so we can either do general or
Okay, yeah,
run
right.
a bond. Maybe a breakdown, so to be transparent
Correct.
with everybody.
Correct.
Of price.
Correct.
Here's how much this one's gonna be, this one,
Correct.
this one, this one. If we need this one this year, we'll buy it this year.
Correct.
If not, we're just getting ready because we're gonna need that one next year.
Yeah.
The concrete at the ag farm, I haven't seen that one, but how much that one's gonna, a dollar amount, probably a dollar amount tied to each one
Correct.
of those helps us.
Correct.
And I don't know if we can do that, if you got time to do that by
Well,
the next meeting.
well, I can work on it.
And
The main thing I wanted out of this conversation is for us to be looking at the list that's been put in front of me and processing in your mind whether or not you think it's worthy. For instance, you brought up that Agmar concrete. Shane sent me an email the morning after we got a pretty good rain, and he was down there feeding animals, but standing in water over the top of his boots, and said he thought we needed a little.
That place has
Labor.
been on the list since he's been here,
He told me that. He told me that.
and we, just be honest,
Nothing
we
happened.
haven't done it.
But I can't imagine, and I went down there and looked, I do believe there's some landscaping work that could move water at a different direction.
Right.
Could help that problem of water running down through the pins. But I do know it's nicer to stand on concrete when you're shaving your sheep or
Right.
washing your heifer or whatever, but, but I can't imagine that being a huge price tag either. I mean, not hundreds of thousands of dollars, which means we could probably manage that. I don't know, we could manage it out from school funds because it's infrastructure type expenditure. Something I did learn, to your point, Cody, on the transportation thing, there's, in my mind, that's one of the two things that probably is a big ticket item that would be worth our time, trouble, and political capital to try to chase in a bond measure. But to your point, if on the transportation, and I didn't know this until last week, Lacey told me, and then the commissioners, when I visited with them, they confirmed that. I didn't realize we could use permanent school fund to pay off bond debt.
Mhm.
Which, holy cow, that's big. I mean, that is huge, because we can't use permanent school funds to buy rolling stock, stuff with wheels. But if it passes in a bond measure, we can use permanent school funds to buy rolling stock. Yay. Did I say a while ago, whatever system you create, somebody will figure out a way to game it, so it's kind of gaming the system, but legally, not unethical. But as you mentioned, Cody, I've been talking to people, getting mileage off of vehicles and looking, and I'm thinking in terms of, if we want to put transportation as a bond measure, think of it as a 2-year deal and try to replace every vehicle we have in over a 2-year window. And then not go back to the voters with a bond measure the following year, if we could have, unless some kind of catastrophe hit. Jim?
Would it be worth adding another big bus?
I think, I think
so.
so. You talking about, when you say big, you like our white ones?
Yes,
Well,
having 3 instead of 2.
I don't know how new
They seem to.
the one is that's in the shop right now, but it's been in the shop more the last month than it's been out.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how new it is, if it doesn't run, we can't use it. So I'd be inclined to put a big bus on it. And Scott had already gotten bids on a 72 passenger Yellow Dog. I haven't talked to him about why he was thinking about that. I have a suspicion that it was because the bond measure failed. And it was looking at the cheaper, because those big, nice activity buses cost more money than the Yellow Dog does, of course. Other questions about this list? Probably the biggest ticket item would be if we were gonna build a new performing arts center, that would be the biggest auditorium, and that would be the biggest price tag if we were gonna go down that path. And what I'm told is, when I was the principal here, we used to host the one night play every year. But the rules have changed since I was a principal in 2002, or principal here in 2002. And now the size of the stage and the access for loading and unloading and all the rules have kind of excluded us from that. And so if we ever were gonna get back in that business. But when I lived here in 2002, I felt like the auditorium needed something. It feels pretty antiquated to me. I don't know if it needs a lot of remodel or whether we need to build another one, but something to chew on. Questions? More questions? Observation?
Is the band hall on there as far as tied to the auditorium, if we're gonna do something there to where it'd be easier just to move it on, or do we have a need for the band hall?
It's on there because someone responded to my email, fishing expedition, when I said, have you got any ideas? And it actually, it was a parent of a band member. It was someone on the staff that replied to me, said, I got a thought. Could the band hall use some work? I think so. I don't know that it needs to be bigger than it is. Based on what I've seen so far. I would love to think we were gonna have 150 in the band, but.
But it
Unless
probably
we
hasn't
attract
been
a lot of-
updated in a while either.
Do what?
It probably hasn't been updated in a while either.
No, I mean, we're bigger now than, I know we're bigger now than we've been in the last 6 or 8 years. I guess they're the last 2 band directors. I don't know who succeeded, Tyler. But COVID almost drove it over the cliff. But that's been, not that y'all care, but when I was here, that was a source of pride, a huge source of pride for us. We beat that horse to death.
We will move to the 2025-26 budget.
Okay. Look here, I'm gonna hurry. So, I'm trying to beat my last time's time limit. Lacey's laughing at me. Budgeting for the coming year, Lacey and I this is the document that we'll use as a starting point. And it's kind of small, sorry. Zoom it up a little bit. There's the 2023 budget. Here's the budget right here for this year that we started with. This column here is the budget that we've amended. We've only done one amendment to the budget so far. But we'll do another one or two probably between now and July. It'll change a little, probably not a whole lot. Here's the actual budget so far, which at this point in time doesn't make a lot of sense because we're spent about probably 60% of what we budgeted to spend so far. But what Sheila and I will do is begin fleshing in here in every school district, about 85% of your money is in your people. And so you don't, unless you start adding more people or firing people, you don't get a lot of movement in the budget, because that's pretty much locked in the people, and then the cost of electricity and energy and stuff is really kind of out of our hands. A lot of those things are just out of our control. So you don't have a lot of discretion when you're trying to manipulate a budget unless you just run up against a cliff, you know, which people do. That year I was at Throckmorton, we were borrowing money every month from the bank to make payroll. Yeah. Make payroll. We were broke. But when we're not there here. But, Lacey and I will start penciling those numbers in. But to my point on the personnel thing, the legislature is meeting in Austin right now. And, so finally, they're at that point, when they get to May is when they get serious, you know, over 8,000 bills were filed originally. Everybody knows, at least 7,000 of those are just window dressing, you know, people trying to score points, you know, at their local community. So now they're getting serious about the bills, which will have direct bearing on the two things that matter to us are the bills that have to do with the state budget, the overall state budget, and then how much they're going to divert to education. And then the other group, and there'll be a very small group of bills that matter to us, are the ones that are out of that education pile of money, the way they say that pile of money is going to get chopped up and sent our way. They keep telling us teachers are going to get a pay raise. We won't know until that dust settles, but that'll be a huge, that thing will have a huge impact on the budget for us. That's all I got on that, unless you got questions for me.
Okay, good. Next, we'll move the summer work schedule.
It's customary in schools, to not keep the offices open 5 days a week in the summer. And so my intention is for us to have a 4-day work due once we get school closed. And then until we get back to the 1st of August or whatever that Monday is, that we get started, just have 4-day work days. I'll talk with the maintenance group. Some schools go 4-10. Do y'all do 4-10 tech stop year round or just some? Year round. Okay. I mean, some schools do 4-10s in the summer with their maintenance people. Some stay with a 5-day week. I'll talk to those folks. It doesn't matter to me really that much. 40 hours is 40 hours.
Switches out, don't they?
Yeah. So, but anyway, I'll inform you, but I just want to give you all a heads up that that's what I intend to do.
Next will be updates.
I'll let Keith speak to this, and increase the size of it where you can see. This is the technology bond that did pass in the election last November, and then we spoke to that. I showed you kind of how we're chunking the money out, how it was planned to be used, and I'll just shut up and let you speak to anything you think's notable.
The first line item up there is the interactive screens for the classrooms. You know, those are already purchased and on site. They are still not all installed yet. Because I have to have help to put them in, and nobody's been here to help put them in. So we'll get that done though, as time goes on. The sound system for the auxiliary gym, I went ahead and ordered a complete sound system for that gym out there. Because next year, we're just gonna have all the pep rallies out there, and that way I don't have to set up temporary sound. We go in there and flip it on and use it, and then it's there. And so that wasn't a big ticket item. We got everything for $3,200. We will have a little bit of cost adding an electrical outlet, but not much. So that'll be done. The Wi-Fi, I'm still working on getting quotes on that. The computers for the lab and laptops for the students. Probably gonna start ordering those here in the next week and a half. Just to try to beat any possible other funding issues on cost for those that we don't know about yet. So I wanna kind of get them on the way here at the process that I can get them now. Just to avoid future problems. The cases for the laptops, I had to already order because they called me and said they were fixing to raise them 25%. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just go ahead and get those ordered. So that's already done. The marquee is officially ordered. We've already finalized the artwork. It's gonna have, the Jaybird logo on one side and the Lady J on the other, and, that's all being processed now, so they're in pre-production of that now. It'll probably be a couple of months, is what I'm guessing, before they can actually have it on site and here. Once they get it here, then we'll be able to start updating that just as soon as possible. So, everything's rolling on, so. Have any questions?
Thank you.
How is the key fob working with everybody having one?
So far, that's been working very well. I haven't really had any complaints. I've had a lot of people say they really like them because they don't have to struggle with their key, if it's not keyed just right, getting in the building. And, we finished up today the 2 daycare doors that are those storm doors. Cause they were really different, really hard. I couldn't get them to commit to anything on that project, but I found a workaround and we did it, finished it today. So now we have those key fobs on the majority of every building on the outside. We didn't do anything like at the concession stand in that area over there, but every building has at least one reader on the outside, but still a key override on several doors too, just in case.
So if a door's left open, does it alarm you? You'll get an alarm? If somebody props one open?
It will alarm, and it'll beep at you while you're at the door too, which the elementary teachers have already found out that it beeps when they go out to the playground. So, yeah.
Okay.
So that's definitely working well. Now, that wasn't anything to do with,
Yeah.
that was school safety money. And, we still have some of that money left too, that we'll be upgrading the camera server system and adding more cameras with the remainder of that money. So that'll be a project that's in the works too. So.
Thanks, Sam. Stadium handicap parking.
So, like Jayton and Kent County don't have very many good building codes. But if you build a facility as a part of a governmental unit like schools are, you have to meet codes. So I got notification last week that handicap parking by the stadium is slightly steeper than it should be. The Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation notified our architect and me and Tyner and said, out of compliance. Got to fix it before we give you the green light. So the Tyner construction superintendent said, we'll get on it. We're going to get on it. That's just a heads up. Nobody should lose sleep over that. You already know the problem. Both of our activity buses are in the shop still. Andy reported to me the other day that the Freightliner is actually in the shop now. It's not just sitting out in the yard. They're actually tearing into it. So I trust that we'll have that back in our service before too long. And it wasn't nearly as big damage. When we met the last time, you all asked me a question I did not know the answer to. Who gets the 2 new houses? I've been digging around and found out that they were offered to Gina Grubin and Kim Mayfield based on seniority with the district. Andy was among those, but he took a pass. And Gina and Kim both have indicated to me that yes, they want to move into the houses when they're ready. I talked to John Loudermilk today on the phone and he said, I think I'm going to be able to hand those to you this week before the week's over. So we're getting really, really close on that. That's all I got, sir. Unless you got questions for me.
Have anything else? Nothing? Need a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Andy makes a motion,
I'll second it.
Stephanie seconds, all in favor?
Yippee! 11 minutes shorter than last time. I'm gonna aim quicker next time.
All right.
Pretty soon, we'll just come there.